everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome back to the Exercise of the Week with our exercise coordinator, Charlie Merlot. Charlie, what have you got for us today?
All right, so this week we're going to be talking about the leg press. So getting into more of a machine exercise, and I told you before we started, I'm most excited about this one.
You know, that got me because I was thinking of all exercises. This is a barbell guy.
Yeah,
you know,
yep.
and we talked about, in fact, we talked about in one of the recent shows that we did, talked about, you know, getting you away from the barbell was almost difficult.
It was hard.
But to have you come in of all the different ones we're talking about, if you come be excited about a machine,
right.
I can't wait to hear this.
I know, this is a shocker. So
exactly.
But yeah, for real though, so before we started this series, you know, you challenged me, you said, dig into the history a little bit. Let's see, you know, get some stuff that people might not know. And I mean, I was shocked to learn some things myself, you know, about this exercise. And so looking into the history of the leg press, you'd be shocked to know where it started.
Right.
So it really started as a circus act, to believe it or not. And, you know, we have some pictures of these things that we're going to talk about through these progressions, but it's really fascinating. So it starts out with this guy named Henry Milo Steinborn in the 1920s. And there's a picture of him leg pressing a car on a trailer. He's underneath this trailer leg pressing a car. So that's, you know, of all the places it could have started, that's kind of where it was born out of. Is, you know, let's see who has the most leg strength. I mean, this is a way to show off incredible, you know, feats of strength, and so it was really a circus act. Is where it, you know, really started.
And there, our career is born out of a circus act.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go. I mean, people say this is a circus. So
right, exactly.
Yeah,
well, we do have the dogs here, so that's
yeah. But going from there, so you know, it really kind of started to transform and say, let's see who can get stronger. You know, what are some other ways that we can do this?
Right.
There was a guy named Sig Klein who he was kind of the strong man of the century back then. He was a well-known strongman. And so again, strongman, it's all about, you know, who's the strongest, who can lift the most weight. And he had a highly successful gym back in the day. And so a lot of guys would go there to train.
Right.
That's where, you know, the kind of the mecca of strongman would be,
right?
Wow,
okay.
And so, you know, he came up with this invention called the Tomb of Hercules. And I'm going to throw this, this picture will be on there as well.
I'm not sure we could have anything
I know,
in here
right?
called
It
the
sounds
Tomb
very
of Hercules.
daunting, but I mean, it's very fitting. This is the gym. All the biggest and baddest dudes come up here. So, you know, they want to train on the Tomb of Hercules.
Of course, absolutely.
And, so what it is, they're laying on their back, and it's this 45-degree platform. It's just like a wooden platform, and it's suspended off a wall by chains. So I mean, it sounds something medieval, right?
Very much so.
And then there's plates stacked up on this platform, and they're just pressing it, you know, as pressing it, the platform, and you know, you'll be able to see better in the picture what I'm talking about, but it looks like a medieval torture device, really.
Very much so.
Yeah. So, you know, we go from there to, all right, now machines are starting to be developed. So you have this first machine. And then the 1970s and 80s is really kind of when, you know, the bodybuilding athletes start to get into it. Start to become more. And you get
knotless machines and stuff really became, you know, more universal.
Right. So, you know, exercise equipment is becoming more readily available. It's becoming more popular. But before they really kind of got locked in and secure on a machine, you know, the barbell was kind of, the free weights were a little more popular before the machines started getting more advanced. So another thing that they would do is they would lay on their backs, they load up a barbell with, you know, 300-400 pounds, and then they would balance this barbell on their feet and do like a vertical leg press, laying on their back, free weight. I mean, this thing could easily fall on them, you know, and I'm sure it did.
Simply,
I'm sure there's some stories out there where somebody got crushed.
Right.
But, I mean, and there's a picture of this we're going to throw up as well. It's just fascinating to see, I mean, these guys, the things that they did to chase strength. You know,
seeing that picture, when you showed that to me earlier, all I could think was, forget about the primary movers. Think about all the secondary muscles that have to be involved in that just to keep that thing balanced.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, I mean it's incredible just to
driven
think
by
about.
Fear.
Right? Yeah, I'm sure there's a little bit of like flight or fight going on in there. Like, what am I going to do if this thing falls on me?
Exactly.
So yeah, you know, started off, you know, free weight. We're going to do this for leg press.
Right.
But then, like you said, the Nautilus, these machine companies started coming out with an actual leg press machine.
Right.
And we've got some really cool pictures we're going to throw up of, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger
on
doing
a fully inverted
press.
leg press. Yeah.
And some of these bodybuilders, you know, this is kind of where, all right, this is one way to really to load up the legs without having to do a back squat or
right.
some of these bigger
right.
compound exercises, they're really fatiguing on your nervous system. It takes
sure.
a lot out of you.
Sure.
And so this was a way that they could substitute some of these heavy leg movements, still moving
right.
a lot of weight, still gaining strength, but to kind of take a break from those bigger other compound exercises.
Yeah, and the variations that we have here, we're going to actually, what Charlie's saying is that you're seeing this today, but we're going to be dropping in a couple of days, going to drop the pictures of showing the history of it. It's really interesting.
Yep.
But even all the way up to and I always say this all the time on my podcast, that this is an ever-evolving field. And so the advances are coming out, always coming out. And we actually have two different variations of the leg press, and we have machine variation. Then we have what was an advancement in the late 90s of a squat press machine, which looks like a leg press, but it's double hinged. And so I want to make sure we throw those in that history also. So
yeah.
So on the video here, which device are we using on the leg press here?
We're going to use the plate loaded one on the loud side, so that's the one we're going to show.
Great, fantastic. Y'all check this out.
Today, we're going to be talking about the leg press. This is a great exercise to isolate the legs and to focus on building strength while keeping any compressive loading off the spine. To perform the leg press, have your feet be about shoulder width apart on the platform and make sure your head and low back maintain contact with the seat. Aim to go through a full range of motion, focusing on quality reps.
Now, what's neat about this, I don't know if you noticed, this is a little different than traditional leg press, because as you saw in that movement, you see a hinge up where the plate is itself, and then there's a hinge, basically the old hinge of where usually a leg press goes straight up and down, slide like our machine one does, but this one has that double movement, so the top plate actually rotates, which is why it's referred to as a squat press. It more simulates the squat movement. Just another advancement, which I thought was kind of neat. So, but walk us through that some.
Yeah, it's come a long way since the circus.
Very much so.
Come a long way. So there's a few benefits. The leg press, like you said, there's many variations. There's many different types of leg presses out there. But it's a great exercise, a great machine to have in a rehabilitation setting.
Very much so.
And we see a lot of that. Clients coming out of physical therapy, they're kind of making that transition from the therapy side to transitioning back into real life. And so kind of bridging that gap between the two, we're able to say, okay, well, maybe you don't need to quite, do these exercises yet. Let's continue on building strength with something you're familiar with, because a lot of PT gyms have these, so it's something they might already be comfortable with. So it's great for rehabilitation. It's great for targeting and isolating, like I said, those leg muscles. So with the squat, you're doing it's really a full body exercise when you got a barbell loaded up, and so you're kind of taking the core and some of that upper body out of it, really just focusing on the legs, which is a great way to kind of give your other parts of your body some rest.
Sure.
And like I said earlier, for those who might have issues with the squat, we talked about that with the goblet squat, that the barbell isn't the answer for everything. The leg press is a great option as well. It's a great way to train the legs without having to sacrifice any other kind of issues that might be going on with the client.
And you with the leg press, anytime you add a machine, it doesn't make the exercise easier. It makes it easier to conduct the exercise, and allowing you more isolation. And like you're saying, from a safety factor, if you have issues with your back and or difficulty holding the form in a squat or a deadlift, going to a leg press where you've got the back basically stabilized, the back alone, and also foot placement and on the plate itself will help you with any kind of problems you may be having with in a squat where you're going knees over toes every once in a while because you're breaking form. And so the safety is great. But it's not only for that. Athletes, good Lord.
Yeah, athletes, it's a great way to train because, again, you can train from different ranges of motion. Athletes, you might not want to always do full range of motion if you're working more power.
Sure.
Again, there's a wide variety of leg presses out there. And again, they're created for different reasons, and so the athletes, when they come in, they might not need to do, again, barbell work. So we'll put them on a leg press because that might be what's best fit for that day.
Sure.
And so it really just depends on, what is the need of the individual.
Absolutely.
And then we as professionals determine, okay, might be a leg press, it might be a squat, it might be a deadlift, you know. And so I think it's a tool, you know, that's what it is. Definitely. At the end of the day, it's another tool in the toolbox that we can use.
But you can rack up, I mean, you can go light on it, but you can rack a lot of weight. We've loaded up plates and then put trainers on it before just to get enough weight on it.
Video.
So, yeah, no kidding, exactly. In fact, the guy that did that, we've had a couple people do it. But the client that did that, 6'8", 350, and he talks about it to this day, and he probably wishes we still had that video.
Oh yeah. I know somebody since I've been here leg press 1,000 pounds. I don't know if there's a trainer on there or not. I just remember hearing about it, and he did a 1,000-pound leg press. So it is one of those things that, you know, you can really load it up, and you know, there's always a risk of injury with exercise, but it is less than what it would be for, you know, a really heavy back squat. If you're still wanting to train heavy, you know, leg press is a great option for that.
Yeah, definitely so. Well, the also in the different progressions, I mean, we talked about rehab. I appreciate you doing that. You know, the rehab, the senior side, I'm really interested in. But how many you know, seniors, rehab people that we've used on either the squat press or on the Pen Select leg press, which is going to be, I mean, we've used hip rehabilitation, knee rehabilitation clients on that one because we can make it go so light. At the same time, we can load it up and do a progression into those much heavier weights. And talk about the different ways you use it, though. I mean, it can be used across the board.
Most definitely, it's very versatile. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, I've got a client right now who, you know, he's working on trying to walk again. You know, it's a goal of his. And so for someone who they might not have the motor function, the capability to do a full range squat, but putting them on that machine, you can actually do less weight than what their body weight is. And so progressing up into the point where, you know, they can get to that. And so that's just one of the ways that I immediately think of, where it's like someone who wouldn't be able to do a traditional squat is able to train their legs in a more controlled setting and still get a ton of benefit out of it. Well,
talk about this though. Main set, you know, you've talked about main set, but what about warm up? What about finishing sets or whatever?
I mean, so there's several ways to train this, and
we don't want to be here all day.
Right, we could. Try your best. Probably, I mean, I could wear y'all out with this, but you know, I like to do something called a pyramid scheme. You heard of that?
Oh yeah,
pyramid. So kind of start at a lower rep range, build it up, and then work your way back down. And that, I mean, that's a finisher in itself. That could be a whole workout.
Definitely.
But and there's several ways, but the pyramid it's great because you work a little bit of strength and you build up into those higher rep ranges for more hypertrophy, muscle building, and you work it back down. And so through the whole way, you're kind of warming yourself up as you go through that rep range. And that's one of my personal favorites.
Yeah. What I was going to say is and if you have the trainers available to do this, it's I'll have to say it's an old school method. I'm going to say that. You'll have to tell me if we still use it. But it's very testosterone laced. But I will say it's an effective way of doing it. Strip sets.
Oh yeah.
Doing love doing strip sets on that. I've even done strip sets on the machine leg press. But a strip set in the video you saw earlier of the squat press, you would actually have two trainers set up on each of the ends where the plates are loaded on. And at one of them is kind of running the game, and at some point in time they're each stripping weights off each side, and so the athlete doesn't have to stop.
And it doesn't get easier.
No, it doesn't. You think it does.
By the time you get to failure with that, one weight, you strip a little bit off and you keep going.
Yeah, exactly.
What I like to do personally, just a little extra punishment, is I don't even let them get a break. I'm like, all right, hold it at the top, and we take the weight off, and they go. So like, there's no break in the middle. But the strip sets, those are a lot of fun.
And something I like about that machine is really interesting is the fact that the way that it's set up, most leg presses aren't this way, but the way it's set up, you can actually strip one side. And strip one side. You're still getting the weight is still equal on the legs. I guess you can get it really heavily overloaded on one side. You start to feel it, but that's what I like about that. Clients, they love the strip sets.
They do.
A week or so later.
Right. Right. After the soreness is gone for a few days.
Exactly. They're not talking to us during the strip set.
Yeah. So. No. Not during, not the day after, probably not the second day after.
Yeah.
But
what about finishing exercise? Like if you're working barbell squats, and I mean, no matter if you've got great form, whatever, as you're working, you get tired. And it gets even taking rest in between, but your legs can probably still go some more. Do you use that? Do you ever do that? Do you use it as a finishing set for like doing squats or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I have before. I mean, one of my personal favorites is kind of a mental challenge. Is I'll go and I'll say, okay, I'm going to do 100 reps.
Right.
I'll do, 10 sets of 10. I'll do 4 sets of 25, whatever. I just got to get these 100 reps in, so kind of like that's a good finisher for me because, I'm going to pick a weight that's challenging.
Right.
I can probably start off getting anywhere from 20 to 30 reps if I just went straight through, and then just try to do it in as few sets as possible. Oh. And so that, it's kind of it's a mental game because it's like, all right, like see how many I can do this in. And that's a fun way to do a finisher. I found that to be pretty cool.
You think you're hearing him punishing himself, but this is just like Brer Rabbit being thrown in the briar patch. This guy loves this stuff, I'm telling you. So if you can see him, he's not drooling yet, but he's smiling. That's for sure. What else do we need to cover on that? So I mean, we could be here all day on
we could. I mean, I'll say this. Single leg press is something that a lot of people don't think about, but again, targeting single leg, that one's pretty fun to do, especially for a finisher. You could do a single leg, the other leg, and then do double leg, and that's just another way, another good finisher. Right. For those of y'all who are taking notes.
Well, and also, I'm glad you brought the single leg because especially that squat press machine, really lends itself to single leg. Mm-hmm. And but I have found, you usually have somewhat of an imbalance. Yeah. You open a door with the same arm every single time. The arm's either going to get tired, it's going to have a little bit more developed. There's going to be a little bit of difference. Mm-hmm. But when you see a real pronounced difference, that's something we need to address. Mm-hmm. And that shows up in these single legs a lot. You can really see the difference in that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
And that's one of my favorite things to hear from a client is to say, man, like my right arm, my right leg used to be so much weaker, and now they're finally even. Just to see that. It seems small, but it makes a big difference, especially in your day-to-day.
Day-to-day, and also, I mean, it makes a difference in your spine, it makes a difference in your hips, I mean, the way you feel, period. So that is, I'm glad you brought that up because that's a real good way of identifying that. So.
And, lastly, just a few tips on training the leg press. I know we talked about a lot, but you kind of touched on this, but just changing your foot position to change the joint angle. Moving your feet, a little wider, a little more narrow. Sure. You can move them higher up on the platform, a little lower. And again, that's just a different way to target the muscle. Right. It will change it, slightly. It's the same exercise, but just a little variation makes a big difference over time.
Yeah, definitely.
And I had to drop this in here, but adding in some positives or negatives. That's my go-to. If something's too easy, I'm like, all right, let's slow it down a little bit.
Right, exactly.
Let's make it a little bit harder. So anytime you add in time under tension, increasing the time you're working the muscle, it's going to make it more challenging. And so add in a pause at the bottom for 3 to 5 seconds. On the way down, again, slowing it down 3 to 5 seconds, and you could progress that for years and still see incredible strength gains. And so that's just one way that, if you're looking for some tips, saying, I'm kind of burnt out on just normal leg press. I think we've given you plenty of variety in this episode with the different rep schemes, the different ways you can progress it. So, y'all have a field day with that.
Absolutely. And listen, if you do have any questions about it, don't think twice about giving us a call here at Personal Edge, 251-341-0927. Reach out to Charlie. He'd be more than glad to talk to you about it. You can tell he loves this stuff. Yeah. He's at charlie@personaledgefitness.com. But we'd love to hear from you. Love to get your questions about that or take you through and actually show you how to build your own program. Just one more way we help you reach your level of wellness. We'll see you next time.